My husband's first love has returned to the country. She stood before me, chin lifted high. You're pathetic. She sneered. Your husband never loved you. I'm his true love. I didn't even look up. My hand kept turning the pages of the ledger. Calm and steady. True love? In this relationship, she's the only one being fooled, stupid and pitiful. Chapter 1. My husband's first love returned home. The very first thing she did was to show up at his company. Right in front of me, she kissed Eric. Like a showy red rose, she shouted brightly, "I'm back!" I closed the data file, looked at her clinging to Eric like a koala, and said flatly, "Then, boss, I'll finish my report tonight." After I met with a client, I returned to find an uninvited guest in my office. Roxana looked me up and down with amusement, arrogance dripping from her voice. "I know yours is just a business marriage. You're pathetic. Eric doesn't love you." I smiled. "Not as pathetic as you. Watching the man you love become someone else's husband." Her face turned red with anger. "You two will divorce sooner or later." She slammed the door and stormed off. I raised my cup and took a calm sip of tea. Everyone knew our marriage was arranged for business. Eric didn't love me, and I couldn't care less, because I didn't love him either. In fact, I was looking forward to a divorce. Our prenup clearly stated that whoever filed for divorce would leave with nothing. If he initiated it, he'd walk away empty-handed, and I'd be left with the empire our families built together. By midnight, Eric still hadn't come home. I quietly removed my makeup and went to bed, not bothering to call him once. When I woke, he was already having breakfast. I washed up, brought him the data report from yesterday, and began summarizing it. He looked up, those ink-dark eyes reflecting me. "Aren't you curious where I went yesterday?" I shook my head. "That's your business. I'm more curious about whether we can win next week's bidding project." Eric folded his arms, his long fingers tapping together with confidence. "Don't worry, that project is ours." I nodded and unlocked my phone, ready to browse the financial news, only to see a new friend request. It was Roxana. After I accepted, she sent a photo, her and Eric on a mountain hike. Her ponytail swayed in the sun as she leaned against his shoulder. "See? Your husband spent the whole day with me yesterday." I saved the photo silently and muted her messages. 30 minutes later, Eric and I walked into the conference room right on time. And there she was again, Roxana, sitting among the observers. When the department managers looked confused, Eric cleared his throat. "The total investment for this bid is $200 million. The company will cover $150. The remaining $50 million will be sponsored by MS. Roxana, let's thank her with a round of applause." Thunderous clapping filled the room as Roxana lifted her chin proudly. After the meeting, she slipped her hand around Eric's arm and cooed, "Eric, I just got back. Will you take me shopping?" Eric glanced at me meaningfully. I smiled. "Go ahead, boss. You should take good care of our $50 million. Roxana's face turned bright red. "You," she stammered. "Not my fault. Really." Her blush was heavier than stage makeup today. Later, while I worked, more messages popped up, photos of her and Eric shopping, at the movies, smiling. I saved them all. If we ever end up in court, they'll make excellent evidence. Chapter 2. That night, after finishing overtime, I came home, and to my surprise, Eric was there. When I finished washing up, he put down his book. "Selena, why don't we have a baby?" I frowned. "Did your grandfather pressure you again?" He rubbed the bridge of his nose, taking off his glasses. "Sort of." I smiled faintly. "I'll talk to him. After the stock goes public overseas, we can think about it." Truth is, I didn't want a child with Eric. Too many women hovered around him. It would be a nightmare. Take Roxana, for example. She'd been his college sweetheart. When Eric went abroad, they lost touch. 2 years later, she followed him overseas, only to find he just graduated and returned home to take over the family business. And married me. The bidding event came as planned. We faced our rivals head-on, revealed our cards, and won the $200 million deal, just as Eric had predicted. That night, the company threw a celebration dinner. As everyone urged me and Eric to give a toast, Roxana appeared, late, in a red dress. "Sorry, I'm late. Traffic was crazy," she said, looping her arm through Eric's. Her red lips, Her matching nails, she was a walking cliché. I smiled politely. No worries. We just got started. Whispers rippled through the crowd, speculating about her and Eric. Eric coughed softly, gently freed his arm, and smirked. Since you're late, you owe us 3 drinks. No one ever dared challenge Eric's word. Roxana was no exception. Eyes wide, she glared at him, but still grabbed the glass and downed 3 in a row. Applause filled the room. Later, Eric served her food. She pouted, and he whispered something that made her giggle, punching his chest playfully. I took a sip of wine. A pair of elegant hands placed ribs on my plate. I turned. It was Ryan, the new sales manager, just 27 and already exceeding every sales target. He smiled. Manager, these ribs are the house specialty. You should try them. I tasted one. Not bad. Thanks. He grinned. We're about the same age. You can just call me Ryan. We started chatting. He had a sharp sense for the market. If I could bring him onto my team, my efficiency would skyrocket. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Eric silently watching us, swirling his wine like a predator eyeing prey. I ignored him. Eventually, he came over, insisting we go home together. Just as we reached the car, Roxana stumbled over, drunk, and claimed the front seat before I could move. Eric looked helplessly at me. I just smiled, waved down a taxi, and went home alone. From the rear window, I saw Eric start the car with Roxana beside him. Minutes later, a message came from Roxana, photos from a hotel room, sheets in disarray, clear evidence of infidelity. I had to admit, her figure was impressive, but she was a fool, a love-struck fool who just handed me ammunition. I saved the pictures. Divorce wasn't yet convenient. Not until the stocks went public and our valuation doubled. Then, I'd file and take Eric's shares with me. After that, I could have any man I wanted. I refocused on the stock launch. Romance was a poor investment. My mother had once been just like Roxana, head over heels, marrying a penniless dreamer. Years later, when they built a business together, my father cheated, claiming he'd found his true love. He gave that woman his shares, she sold them, took the money, and vanished. We almost lost everything, until my grandfather stepped in to buy back control. Since then, my fate was sealed, an arranged marriage to Eric, to protect the family's holdings. That's why I always keep control. Never again will I let anyone have the power to throw me away. Chapter 3. Manager. Your lunch slot is open today. Want to grab a meal together? Because of the overseas listing, I'd been traveling for nearly half a month. The day I got back to the office, Ryan came over. He's officially my chief assistant now, arranging my schedule and helping me handle work every day. Half a month ago I happened to catch Ryan arguing with one of the old hands on his team. The veteran relied on seniority and refused to accept Ryan as sales manager. Ryan, young and hot-blooded, was red in the face with anger. I stepped in and smoothed it over for him. Ryan handles things reliably, so I've even let him process some confidential files. I've been slammed preparing the IPO, and he's been right there with me, working 2 solid weeks without a day off. He deserved a thank you lunch. I smiled. Then let's do noon today. You pick the place. Watching Ryan's energy, I couldn't help thinking how nice it is to be young. Truth is, we're the same age. I was just groomed as a family successor from childhood. My parents taught me how to be an effective decision maker. Age never figured into it. I also genuinely love work. I'd been flying nonstop this past month and hadn't even gone home once. Eric did send me a WeChat once during that time, but my meeting ended late and I forgot to reply. At lunch, Ryan kept putting food in my bowl. Eat more, boss. You've gotten thinner. Thanks. You eat too. Right then Roxana stormed over and splashed a glass of water in my face. Then started cursing. Bitch, I finally caught you. Where are you hiding, Eric? Ryan stood up in front of me. And you are? Roxana jabbed a finger at his nose. Blind much? You don't even recognize me? I pulled Ryan back and gave him a small nod to stand down. Then I drew back my hand and slapped Roxana hard. While she was stunned, I raised my hand and slapped the other cheek. You, Roxana clutched her face, staring at me in disbelief. I flexed my tingling palm. That's the price for throwing water in my face. NMS. Roxana, loudly asking other people about their husband's whereabouts. Not a good look. People in the restaurant began whispering, pointing at Roxana. Cut the crap. Where is Eric? She looked like she might tear me apart. Since the night you slept with him. I haven't seen him, I said lightly, taking 2 napkins to dry my face. That set the room on fire. Words like shameless drifted to our table. Roxana's face went red, then green. She spat out, filthy bitch. Just you wait. And fled. As soon as she left, I called the housekeeper and learned that Eric hadn't been home the entire month either. I fell into thought. Where had Eric been? Boss. The food, Ryan prompted. We're done. Back to the office. We have a meeting. 2 hours later, Eric appeared in my office. Welcome home, my dear wife. He reached his arms toward me. I sidestepped without making a scene. Your woman came here looking for you and threw water in my face. Tisk. TSK. Are you jealous? He withdrew his arms and looked at me. I snorted. Do me a favor, when you chase women, don't drag me into it. He didn't answer that directly. Instead, he propped his chin on my desk and asked, after all these days, aren't you curious where I've been? We each have our own work, I said, puzzled. What's there to be curious about? Something dimmed in his eyes, then smoothed over. Then let's go home together tonight. Just the 2 of us. We'll see. I opened a contract and got back to work. Eric, sensing he wasn't getting anywhere, stood to leave just as Ryan pushed the door open. Maybe it was my imagination, but it felt like the 2 of them exchanged the briefest look. That evening I stopped by home to grab some files. As soon as I walked in, I saw a woman on the sofa with her back to me, sobbing. Eric sat opposite, smoking. At the sound of the door, the woman turned. Roxana again. Her eyes were bloodshot. Tears had wrecked her elaborate makeup into patches of white and black. Selena, I'm pregnant, she said. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, please, let Eric and me be together. I looked at Eric. He sat there steady and said nothing. Whether I let you or not is up to Eric, I said. If he agrees, I'll sign right away. Though if it means walking away with nothing, I doubt he'll be so eager. Eric crushed out his cigarette, stood, and faced Roxana. I'll give you $5 million as compensation. Please leave. Roxana's eyes went wide. She pointed at me, incredulous. You're going to give up the chance to acquire L Group for her? Huh? Since when? Eric, when did you plan to acquire L Group? I asked. Roxana, frantic, pushed on. She doesn't even know about the acquisition, but I can help you lock it down in one move. Are you sure you only want her? Eric, answer me, because this involved the company. My tone hardened. Eric stepped toward me, reaching for my hand. Selena, I've drafted the plan and the implementation scheme. You don't need to worry about this. I stepped back. Is the company yours alone? What exactly are you trying to do? It seemed Eric's wolfish ambition was swelling. He even wanted to sideline my authority. Roxana didn't care about any of that. She was hysterical. I know everything about L Group. I'm far more useful to you. She pointed her red polished nail at my face. And she's got some ambiguous thing going with a subordinate. She doesn't deserve to be your wife. Shut up. Anyone would lose their temper at that kind of insult. MS. Roxana, watch your mouth. Leave now, or I'll call security. Seeing her spiral, Eric decisively pulled out his phone and called security. I poured myself a glass of water and looked at Eric. Do you have anything to say to me? He lit another cigarette. Selena, I know I should have told you sooner, but if we acquire L Group, we'll become the largest conglomerate in the province. I cut him off. Is that what you've been doing this whole month? You know we're at the most capital-intensive stage of the overseas listing. You want to start a major acquisition now. Why? To bleed our cash? Selena, you don't have to worry about the company so much. Just be a good wife. And don't fret about Roxana. I'm only using her intel for profit. In the end, the ones at the top will be you and me. We're a perfect match. A perfect match? I felt only disdain. With methods that dirty, he thought I'd be honored? I let out a cold laugh. We're both shareholders. Without my approval, you're not doing this. Then let the board vote. Meeting at 8 tomorrow morning. Eric took his coat and left, watching his back. I had to admit Roxana's description was spot on. Selfish. Mercenary. A man like that doesn't deserve to be my husband. Chapter 4. At the board meeting the next day, Eric passed the motion to acquire L Group by a single vote. I sat there, my face pale with fury. That decisive vote came from Ryan, and the proposal Eric presented that morning bore the company seal, our company's official stamp. The seal had always been kept by me after Ryan came on board. I'd let him handle it, but with one iron rule: any document needing the seal must have my approval first, especially if it involved Eric. The rule existed for exactly this reason. After the meeting, Ryan came to my office, face full of guilt. Boss, I'm so sorry. I didn't keep an eye on the company seal, mister. Eric must have taken advantage of that. I arched an eyebrow. So you're saying Eric stole it? Ryan nodded. I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. I turned my laptop toward him. The surveillance footage showed Ryan handing the seal to Eric. They even patted each other's shoulders. You were recording me? Ryan's eyes widened in shock. A chief assistant is a sensitive position. It's monitored in real time. I replied coolly. I've been too busy lately. You slipped through. I turned the screen back toward me. Your employment contract clearly states, if you hand over the company seal to anyone besides Selena without written authorization, it constitutes theft of trade secrets. Congratulations. Ryan, you'll be eating prison food soon. Ryan panicked. Boss. I lost my head for a moment. Please. I've worked so hard for you these past weeks. Have mercy. I looked at him through half-lidded eyes. Why should I? What did Eric promise you? He stammered. He trusts me. I can help you with anything. Just don't call the police. I smiled faintly. Fine. Then here's what I want. Eric leaves the marriage with nothing. With the board's support. The L Group acquisition went through smoothly, but I also had Eric sign an agreement. If the overseas IPO fails, he'll surrender all his shares. Perhaps out of guilt or desperation to win my trust, he signed it without protest. And that's when the real show began. To complete the listing, Eric needed cash fast. Even after taking multiple loans, he was still short $10 million. Under my instructions, Ryan recommended him a high-return investment product. At first, it performed well, but when Eric increased his stake, the whole thing collapsed. He lost everything. Now defeated, he came to me. Selena, are a few stocks really worth more than our marriage? He was still clinging to false hope. And Roxana told me the L Group acquisition would bring in all their former clients' orders. Why haven't we gotten even one? She wouldn't be wrong. I smiled. Of course there are no orders. My private subsidiary already intercepted them all. That company had nothing to do with Eric. It was part of my dowry. A clean, separate entity. I looked at him. You can only blame yourself for trusting Roxana too much. Impossible. I know L Group's internal data inside out. There's no way this could fail. Roxana loves me. She wouldn't deceive me. I sneered. Maybe she wouldn't, but you, Eric, a CEO who blindly trusts a woman with company secrets, don't you find that pathetic? Tomorrow his shares would officially transfer to me. Once I had his 20% added to my own, I'd become the company's majority shareholder. The thought made my heart race. Then I remembered I'd left the share transfer agreement at the office. I got in my car to retrieve it. As I turned onto the main road, a black Range Rover sped toward me. I swerved, but not fast enough. The car slammed into the guardrail. My head cracked against the steering wheel, blood blurring my vision. Through the haze, I saw someone step out of the other car. The streetlight glinted off the knife in his hand. I can't die, not yet. That thought kept me alive. I slapped my own face hard to stay conscious, dragged myself from the wreck, and stumbled toward a nearby supermarket. There were people there, but the man chased me down. I was injured. Slower, he tackled me to the ground, the knife poised above my forehead. I grabbed his wrist, fighting with all I had, but he was stronger. Just as I was about to lose, a patrol car's siren blared. The man bolted, leaving me on the ground. I was taken to the hospital, no fractures, but a head wound and a swollen leg. Who wanted me dead? Eric? Ryan? Roxana? After discharge, I went to Roxana's apartment. To my surprise, she hadn't terminated the pregnancy. To her surprise, I was still alive. Her first words were, "You're alive?" Realizing she'd slipped, Roxana quickly changed tone. "What are you doing here?" She glared, ready to shut the door. I lifted the fruit basket in my hand. I came on behalf of my husband, to visit his mistress and child. Then, with a faint smile, sorry to disappoint you, I'm not dead. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, avoiding my eyes. Her guilt was plain. My suspicions were right, she was involved. I just didn't know whether she had help. I pressed on. You want a divorce? That's easy. Eric's been removed from the board, but his family still has power. You're carrying his child. There's no way they'll abandon you. Roxana's eyes widened. Are you serious? Of course, but first, tell me, who tried to kill me the other night? I don't know what you mean. Oh, you know, I said with a confident smile. Roxana grew flustered, holding her belly. I only wanted to scare you. Eric bribed the driver to kill you, I found out later. My eyes narrowed. Is that true? It's true. I had no reason to want you dead. Eric came to me, he said he'd acknowledge this baby. So, my guess had been right. Eric, cornered and desperate, had wanted me gone. We weren't even divorced yet, and as my legal husband, if I died, he'd inherit everything. Chapter 5. Trust Eric to always come up with a way. Too bad for him, I didn't die. Since I'm alive, he can get lost. You'll become Mrs. Eric, I told Roxana, but you'll have to do something first. She leaned forward, impatient. What do you need me to do? Write on cue. Find a reporter. Tell them everything about you and Eric, word for word. Once it hits the front page, even if he denies it, it won't matter. I'll divorce him. You'll be the mother of his child and move up accordingly. How about it? Roxana eyed me warily. Wouldn't that expose both of us? Everyone would know I was a homewrecker clawing my way up. I raised a brow. So you do know you're the other woman? Her face flushed, then blanched. I continued. Having you go public speeds up my divorce. Clean. No loose ends. Otherwise, the photos you sent are enough for me to divorce him anyway. But I can't guarantee he won't throw you and the baby overboard later just to prove his devotion to me. Roxana clenched her fists. Fine, I'll do it. But can I really become his wife? That depends on your skills. Either way, I'm divorcing Eric. She tightened her fists. Deal. I don't care who my husband is. If he can't power pair with me, I'll cut cleanly and fast. Sure enough, that evening the TV ran Roxana's tearful tell-all. Not just photos and videos, there was also the ultrasound and receipts for luxury goods Eric bought her. I smiled. Love-brained women are the scariest. If Eric sees her airing his private life on national media, he'll want to kill her, not marry her. After the news, Eric blew up my phone, over 80 missed calls. I watched the screen light up and go dark, then blocked him. The next day, Eric showed up at my office with his grandfather. The old man, well into his 70s, was still sharp and spry. And to be fair, I respect him. From a street wonton stall to a family conglomerate, that spine built their house. He looked at me, contrite. You saw the news, I presume? I nodded. He sighed. Eric's been spoiled since he was a boy. I never thought he'd do something so disgraceful. Don't be rash. We'll make this right. Eric is an exceptional young man. Women throwing themselves at him is normal, as long as you're the one in his heart. Grandfather, I intend to divorce Eric. My tone was flat, like discussing a stranger's weather. He frowned. Men make mistakes. Divorce isn't worth it. Will your grandfather agree? I've already spoken to him, and if I don't divorce soon, I might not survive this. What do you mean? I set a recorder on the table. The driver from the hit and run had been caught. Before transfer to the station, he confessed Eric hired him to kill me and promised $1 million after the job. The driver had kept their chat logs, just in case. Faced with the evidence, the old man slammed his cane on the floor, then turned on Eric. I thought you were merely frivolous. I didn't know you were vicious. To plot your own wife's murder? This group has no place for you. You are not me successor. Grandfather, let me explain. I looked at Eric. Get ready for prison. The old man left with a heavy sigh. Eric chased after him, babbling excuses. The successor's chair was clearly up for reconsideration. I filed the evidence in court. No matter how Eric threatened or pleaded, I stood firm on divorce. When the judgment came, All properties and vehicles under Eric's name went to me. After folding Eric's shares into mine and unwinding his trapped funds with Ryan, our company completed the overseas listing. My net worth tripled overnight. As for Ryan, I let him off with only a termination from the group. Ambition in the young is a good thing, until you try to shortcut your way up the wrong road. He reached for too much and got fired. I imagine the fall hurt. Chapter 6. I could finally take a proper vacation. After weeks of exhaustion, both mental and physical, I was ready for some rest. With nothing urgent on my schedule, I decided to go shopping for a few travel essentials. The moment I entered the mall, I saw a man beating a heavily pregnant woman. A crowd had gathered, but no one dared to step in. When I looked closer, my stomach dropped. The man was Eric, and the woman lying on the floor was Roxana. "Stop!" I shouted, rushing forward to pull her up. Roxana trembled violently, clutching my arm. "Help! Help me!" Someone in the crowd yelled. "The police and ambulance are on their way." I looked up at Eric. Gone was the charming gentleman. His hair hung in greasy clumps across his forehead, his beard unkempt, and he was still wearing the same crumpled yellowed shirt from the day of the verdict. His eyes were bloodshot. He lunged again toward Roxana. "It's all this bitch's fault. I'm broke, in debt, kicked out of the family. Where the hell am I supposed to go now? It's all her fault." He tried to kick her again. That was the final spark the bystanders needed. Several men rushed forward, pinned him down, and waited for the police. Roxana was taken to the hospital by ambulance. As she was pushed into the operating room, she grabbed my hand with trembling fingers. Please, save the baby." Her terrified eyes were like those of a wounded fawn. I held her hand tightly. Roxana gave birth a month early via emergency C-section. Thankfully, both mother and baby were safe. When I went to visit, she was sitting in bed, staring blankly at the newborn in her arms. I set the fruit basket on the table and walked over softly. "How are you feeling?" She gently patted the baby's back. "I'm going to raise the child alone. Didn't you want to be Mrs. Eric?" Roxana lowered her head and smiled faintly, eyes tender on her baby. I realized Eric never loved me. The moment I touched his interests, he threw me away without hesitation. He's only ever loved himself. I don't want my child growing up with a father like that. Motherhood had softened her. The bitterness was gone. She carried a quiet strength now. I patted her shoulder. "If you ever need help, call me." "Thank you." Eric was later arrested for intentional assault. What awaited him was a well-deserved punishment. I took my mother to Sonia for a little trip. We walked barefoot along the soft warm beach, the sea a deep turquoise under the sunlight. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly at peace. In the distance, couples laughed and splashed in the waves. I leaned back on a recliner, sipping coconut water, basking in the sun. Then a tanned, well-built hand appeared in front of me, holding a straw hat. "Miss, is this yours?" A magnetic voice spoke. I looked up. A man in sunglasses, flashing a bright smile, sunlight gleaming on his sculpted muscles. He was holding the hat I must have lost while surfing earlier. I stood up and took it from him with a polite smile. "Yes. Thank you. You're welcome, beautiful lady. May I add you on WeChat?" His tone was courteous, and his face, undeniably handsome. Sure, after all, who doesn't appreciate a good-looking man? We exchanged contacts. I smiled lightly. "May I ask your name?" The man grinned, 8 perfect teeth gleaming. "Ethan." Seeing my slight surprise, he extended his hand. "Eric's uncle." I remembered when Eric and I married. His uncle had been studying abroad in the UK, so I'd never met him. But why approach me now? To reclaim the family shares? Or to rebuild the alliance between our families? I reached out my hand, smiling with meaning. "Nice to meet you, Ethan." Whatever his purpose, as long as I remain the hunter, nothing else matters.